Hello everyone, welcome to NG's Corner for Nurses. Hope all of you are doing well. Today our topic of discussion is classification of joints. We all know the joints can be classified in different aspects. So we will discuss this topic in different parts. Let's start the first part. This video will cover the definition of joints, the relationship between mobility and stability in joints, and then we will discuss the classification of joints in various aspects. In this video, we will cover first two aspects. Joints are junctions between two or more bones or cartilages. Joints are also known as articulations, which means sites of strong connections that joins bone to bone or cartilage to bone or teeth to bone. The functions of joints are join bones together, bear weight, and to allow movement. The diagram in this slide describing the relationship between mobility and stability in joints. In our body, there are some mobile joints and some stable joints. More mobile joints are less stable joints. Which joints are less movable? They are more stable. From this picture, we can see sutures are immovable joints, but they are most stable joint. On the other hand, shoulder joints are extremely movable joint, but they have very less stability. So movable joints are prone to dislocate because they have less stability, and immobile joints are less prone to dislocate because of their stability. Next, coming to the classification of joints. We can classify joints in different aspects like regional classification, classification based on complexity of the joint, or biomechanical classification, which depends on the number of bones involved in the joint. Next is structural classification, which is based on the structures, and next one is the functional classification, that is the joints is classified as per their functions. First, we will discuss the regional classification of joints. As per the region, we can divide joints into three types: skull type, vertebral type, and limb type. Let's discuss each type. First is skull type. Immovable joints comes under this type. As an example, we can say the sutures. In this picture, we can see there is a cranial vault and there are three types of suture: coronal suture, sagittal suture, and lambdoid suture. Coronal suture between frontal bone and parietal bone, sagittal suture between two parietal bone, and lambdoid suture between parietal and occipital bone. So these sutures are the immovable joints. So these sutures are coming under this skull type. Next is vertebral type. It is slightly movable joints comes under this type. As an example, we can say intervertebral joint. As all we know, spine facilitates certain degrees of flexion as well as extension. That is forward flexion and backward extension. So this intervertebral joints comes under this type. Next is limb type, that is freely movable joints. We know the joints of our both limbs which are highly movable, and it comes under this type. So as an example, we can say knee joint. Next, coming to the classification based on the number of bones involved in the articulation or biomechanical classification of joint. In this way, we can divide joints into three types: simple joint, compound joint, and complex joint. Let's see each types. First is simple joint. When only two articulation surfaces are there in the joint, it is called simple joint. As an example, we can say hip joint. In this picture, we can see in hip joint there are only two surfaces. One is the acetabulum of the pelvis and second one is the head of the femur. Next is compound joint. When there are three or more articulation surfaces in the joint, it is called compound joint. As an example, we can say radiocarpal joint. In this picture, we can see the radiocarpal joint formed between the radius, that is the distal part of the radius, and three proximal carpal bones, scaphoid, lunate, and triquetrum. Next type is complex bone. When there are two or more articulation surfaces and an articular disc or meniscus involved in the joint. What is articular disc? Articular disc or meniscus is a thin oval plate of fibrocartilage present in several joints which separates synovial cavities. This separation of the cavity space allows for separate movements to occur in each space. As an example, we can say knee joint. In this picture, we can see knee joint is formed by the distal part of the femur, proximal part of the tibia, patella, and there are two meniscus. One is lateral meniscus and another one is the medial meniscus. Next part of this video will coming soon. If this video is useful for you, then it is requested to put a like and share it with others. And for getting more videos like this, you can subscribe my YouTube channel or follow my Facebook page NG's Corner for Nurses. And for any queries or suggestions, you are most welcome to comment. Thank you for listening.